subscriber. Welcome back. So, this is my first time noticing unreleased trauma. That's the way I want to say it. But I feel like my subconscious is trying to heal itself. And while it's going through whatever process it needs to for that healing, when I express things outwardly, I can see how certain situations will trigger a natural response. And mentally, my conscious is like, why would I respond like that? But my subconscious is literally releasing something internally to the physical to make me aware that is an unhealed trauma still within me. And because I don't want to say I didn't think that deep on things, I guess I've had to just deal with things so long that I never took the time to notice when my body responds to different, I'm going to say the word triggers, to show that something internally or subconsciously isn't healed yet. And to me, I was just comically expressing something that affected me a long time ago. And I was just making a joke about it and explaining how I coped with what took place a long time ago. But naturally, my body was shaking so bad. And to me, while it was taking place, consciously, I'm just like, why am I shaking like this? This makes no sense for my body to respond like this because I don't feel any type of way about that situation anymore. Consciously, I thought I was healed from it. I told myself I let it go. In the situation, the person kind of explained why they act the way they acted. So at that time, once they said that to me, it was like, okay, I don't need to hold on to this because you act like that because of whatever you got going on. So it's really a you issue. It's not a me issue. But it affected me so much to the point that to this day, I still have an inner response to just thinking about it or trying to express something about it. And again, that's why I had to equate it to healing, because I honestly do not feel any type of, I don't feel any way about it, to be honest with you, to me at least. But as I'm going through noticing trauma responses, all I can think about was every time I get to a place of healing, something externally would try to either trigger something within me to get me back into that subconscious response of it's still affecting you in some type of way. So even when other people say it's not that deep, or I try to make myself feel like it's not that deep, the response in itself shows that it really is that deep. So I was listening to someone. I'm not really good at taking down people's names and remembering who the person that said the original thought, because I don't always know if I'm going to repeat what I heard. But I was on Instagram and I came across someone saying that there's two responses to things like that. And depending on how you respond, the kind of shows how much you have actually healed. So she was saying that if if you respond with ego and like trying to defend yourself, then you're not really healed just yet. But if you step back and you look at how this reaction is taking place and you're analyzing it and trying to figure out what's causing you to feel, or what's causing that natural response to, not what's causing the physical response to the trigger of the trauma, basically. And that video alone helped me because, like I said before, I didn't even know that I was still subconsciously triggered by some of these things. So when it was taking place, I honestly was just like, what is going on? Like, my body's response right now isn't making sense to me. Like, I am literally joking at the moment. Why am I responding like this? And it didn't make me want to overly explain myself. It really made me want to figure out how deep is this feeling going? Because even at the point before I got to that place, I wasn't responding how I normally would push through a day. Like, I wasn't going through my day to day like I normally would. And that in itself was still that trauma naturally responding to whatever I was feeling internally. And again, I was not processing it that way. I didn't understand what was taking place. Like, I literally was trying to figure out what was going on with me, because to me, and on a conscious level, I felt like there was no reason for me to be feeling whatever was causing my subconscious to express itself the way that it was expressing itself in the natural. But then again, this was my first time allowing my body to process it the way it wanted to process it. Like any other time, I would have just pushed through and continued through the days as if nothing was wrong. Like as if I don't want to say as if I was okay, because again, there was physically nothing wrong with me. I just clearly had something subconsciously weighing really heavy on me. So it had me think of like so many of the prophets in the Bible and how they would respond to different things. So like I get Elisha and Elijah mixed up a lot. So I don't know which one of them was running from Jezebel, but like in my mind when I'm reading that, I'm just like, what made him run away from her, knowing like you know who your God is, but still what type of spiritual heaviness is going on to make him respond in the way that he responds? Or like David with Saul, like as many times as David took into consideration of how and who his God is and spared Saul, or just considered Saul in so many situations, it's just like, why was his response the way it was when it came to Saul? And then even with Jesus and him about to go to the cross and praying to the point of sweating the way he was sweating, like these are natural responses to spiritual heaviness. And when I read these things, like I couldn't really understand the natural responses to spiritual things, knowing who is backing you spiritually. But because it's so easy to take the Bible stories and just think of them as like fairy tales, or as if they weren't real people. So when I think of responses that I have today, or I see different responses to, I'm going to say like the algorithm again, because that's a psychological warfare that if you want to accept it as that, you should. But if you don't, that's on you. But when I see different responses from things like that, I'm I'm reminded about how human they were back then, and how, again, this is a continuation of those stories to this day. It's the same God. We're the same type of people that he's working through, and these responses are human. So just like them, even though we know who's backing us, and we have a word that allows us to know that we have victory in the end, it still doesn't stop that subconscious triggering of whatever trauma the world is placing on us to represent itself when we either don't feel like we hear God telling us how to work through whatever he's using to either prune us or get us to understand the difference between internally healing and falling into tactics of the enemy to make his people seem like they don't really trust who he is and how he has a plan for us through all of the tactics that takes place. So granted, sitting through the healing process is tough. Like, imagine you broke a bone and you have to go through that process of it healing. It's uncomfortable. You want to be able to move your limbs like you normally would have, and to be able to get to that space, you have to endure whatever limitation is taking place to be able to heal properly. So sitting through those emotions was uncomfortable for me. Seeing responses to things that I feel like I'm past, like I should be well past, is uncomfortable to me, because it's like clearly something is not as healed as I would want it to be. But the only way to know that you've truly healed from these things is to allow yourself to go through whatever this subconscious trigger may be, see what the response is, and maturely adjust how you react or cope with whatever that trigger may be. So even if you get to a place where you feel like you're going through whatever it may be, even if it's like a physical situation or a internal working through a situation, you still have to remember that spiritual backing. So as much as my spirit was disturbed in a lot of things this week, it wasn't until I did what I felt like the Lord would want me to do, to be able to have that spiritual confirmation of peace, letting me know that I'm doing what the Father will want me to do. I'm leaning into whatever that deep-rooted foundation of faith inside of me is as well. Like, even though there's a subconscious triggering, there's still a subconscious faith taking place as well, kind of balancing out the thought process to the responses. Because as you mature, you don't always respond with how you're feeling at that time. Like, a mature response will take the time needed to figure out what's causing the response than to just act on whatever the response is at the time. So again, there is a physical representation of evil out there that is going to try its best to trigger these responses in you. But you have to remember that God is literally pruning his children to be who he needs them to be, to help others through what they're going through. So the Bible verse that's coming to mind with all of this is John 16:33. But that's all I got for y'all. Until next time.